Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is Explanation of Battle Through the Heavens episode number 216 based on novel. So let's start. A low and deep roar was emitted from Xiao Chen's mouth, causing Xiao Yang's heart to tremble at this moment. A strange feeling that originated from deep within his bloodline gradually spread to every part of his body. That feeling caused his soul to tremble. That feeling was an old pride. It was a pride that originated from a clan that had once stood at the peak of the continent. Even though the clan had already declined, that pride was still deeply buried within his bloodline. No one dared to challenge the might of the Xiao clan at its peak. Even the Hun clan could only quietly hide like a poisonous snake. They waited for their opponent to weaken before launching a fatal attack. The current Xiao clan does not have the qualification to utter these words. Old man Hun Mo lowered his head. His eyes were like poisonous snakes as they stared at Xiao Chen, who was holding a large blood-colored axe. Old man Hun Mo mocked him. Even though the Xiao clan has declined, you do not have the qualification to give such an evaluation. Xiao Chen's eyes were frighteningly cold. His foot slammed on the ground, and with a flash, he appeared above old man Hun Mo's head. His enormous blood-colored axe was just like a divine axe that could split the world as it ruthlessly hacked toward old man Hun Mo. Won't you know whether this elderly self is qualified after you try him personally? Old man Hun Mo coldly laughed as Xiao Chen's extremely mighty attack came. He shook his sleeve and over a dozen white bones shot out. Black fog spluttered and swiftly formed a white spiderweb in front of him. He allowed the huge axe to continue down unperturbed. The powerful strength contained in the enormous axe was quickly removed as it struck the web. The speed at which the large axe landed slowed. It seemed as though it had fallen into a quagmire. In the end, it halted just half a foot from old man Hun Mo. Blood axe Xiao Chen is but only so great. Is that so? A red glow flashed across Xiao Chen's eyes upon hearing this. A trace of blood suddenly appeared as that huge axe was once again swung down. That silk-like bone web was easily cut apart, and the axe continued toward old man Hun Mo's throat. This sudden unexpected change caused old man Hun Mo to feel slightly startled, but he did not panic. His bone-like hand made a strange arc before gently pressing against the axe. After which, he randomly slammed against it with his hand. One could hear a loud sound. That enormous blood-colored axe was actually sent off course. The axe cut away and only removed a lock of old man Hun Mo's hair. Old man Hun Mo had suffered a loss during this initial exchange due to being arrogant. His expression became a little dark and cold. The seals formed by his hands suddenly changed as the dark cloud above him, which blotted out the sun, suddenly emitted countless of sharp miserable screeches. One could even vaguely see an unimaginable number of figures struggling within the dark cloud. Sky demon blood insect, bite. That black cloud in the sky suddenly churned after old demon Hun Mo's dark and cold cry sounded. A moment later, a fierce aura that did not belong to a human suddenly surged from the dark cloud. A piercing bloody light tore through the dark cloud like lightning in front of tons of pairs of shocked eyes. It wildly charged toward Xiao Chen at speed one could not react to. Ground-splitting hack. The enormous blood-soaked axe in Xiao Chen's hand wildly danced like a windmill as he watched the bloody light rapidly magnify in front of him. The axe paused and a 10,000-foot-large bloody glow erupted from the axe. It was accompanied by waves deep sonic booms as it violently collided with the blood glow with lightning-like speed. Splutter. That bloody light flew tens of thousands of feet back after being ruthlessly struck by that 10,000-foot-large bloody glow. A sharp strange cry appeared as a couple of mountains were turned into dust. Although it had suffered a serious blow, the life force of the bloodlight was extremely strong. It once again rushed over after just stabilizing its body. This time around its speed much slower. Many people could clearly make out its appearance. The sound from the inhalation of cold air continued to appear. That bloodlight was a toad-like object. However, it was completely dark red in color. There was a countless number of protruding clusters of flesh on its body. If one were to examine it carefully, one would notice that the clusters of flesh possessed many ferocious human faces. It is actually the soul-cursed toad. This old man Hun Mo is really ruthless. Yarrow Laro scanned this ferocious and frightening blood toad from a short distance away and spoke with a somewhat ugly expression. Xiao Yang knit his brows. He had heard of this soul-cursed toad. It was rumored to be formed by gathering many souls together before forcing all the souls to kill each other. After which, some other ingredients would be gathered and the soul-cursed toad would be refined. This thing was similar to a puppet, but due to it being forcefully formed by gathering many souls together, it also ended up gaining an intelligence. However, this intelligence was accompanied by a violent nature. Once this thing was released, it would go on a wild killing spree. In the end, it would even attack its owner. Normally, only an extremely ruthless person would refine it. Countless pairs of eyes stared at the blood toad from around the mountain range. Hatred and fear, which could not be hidden, involuntarily appeared in their eyes. Clearly, many people had heard about the soul-cursed toad's fierce reputation. Go. Old Man Hun Mo ignored these gazes. A stern expression surfaced on his face. His finger pointed towards Xiao Chen, who was a short distance away. That soul-cursed toad once again shot forth after obtaining its orders. Old Man Hun Mo, on the other hand, continued to launch sneak attacks while the soul-cursed toad held back Xiao Chen. Each of sneak attack was ruthless and targeted Xiao Chen's fatal spots. Old Man Hun Mo was intending on killing the Xiao Chen. Faced with the combined attack of man and toad, Xiao Chen had no choice but to switch from offense to defense. He even vaguely appeared to be at a disadvantage. It seems that the situation is quite bad. Yarrow Larrow and the others frowned and softly made some comments after seeing this scene. On the other hand, those from the Hall of Souls revealed some joyous faces. Xiao Yang's eyes focused on Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen might be restrained in every way, but his expression had not changed much. Xiao Yang quietly sighed in relief upon noticing this. Although ancestor Xiao Chen seemed to be a little weaker than Old Man Hun Mo, he was still a top-tier person. The many experiences he had accumulated were not things that Old Man Hun Mo could match. I wonder what the situation is like in that realm. Xiao Yang's head turned to the realm, which had been built earlier. The battle inside had gradually become extremely heated. Even though they were in another realm, Xiao Yang was still able to sense the destructive force erupting within it, but it was currently impossible to clearly observe the battle situation inside with just one's naked eyes. Hence, he could not make out the situation inside. 2 of the 3 battles are currently proceeding, yet the Chief of the Hall of Souls has not attacked. It is likely that he intends to wait for the 2 battles to end before deciding. This thought lingered in Xiao Yang's heart. If both Old Man Hun Mo and Hun Qian Mo were victorious, the Hall of Souls would have won 2 out of the 3 rounds. Then, there would be no need to proceed with the final fight. The battle in the sky became more intense while Xiao Yang was thinking to himself. The sharp exchanges caused one's eyes to be dazzled. Only some of the sharp-eyed individuals were able to barely follow that flickering human figure. Bang! While Xiao Chen and Old Man Hun Mo were engaging in a ferocious and intense battle, a shocking thunder-like explosion suddenly sounded. Everyone's eyes were immediately attracted by this explosion. One could see the spatial tunnel from earlier suddenly exploding apart as 2 figures flew out of it. Both of them withdrew by 100 steps before they slowly stabilized their bodies. They have come out. Many exclamations rang around the mountain range after seeing the 2 figures shooting out of the spatial tunnel. Old ghost, you do have some skill. Hun Qian Mo stabilized his body in the sky. He did not appear miserable. Even his clothes did not appear to have been touched, but an expert like Xiao Yang was able to tell that the do qi within this old fellow's body had been exhausted to a relatively miserable extent. From this exhaustion, it was possible to infer just how intense the fight was within that realm. The ancestor from the Pill Tower in the distance merely smiled but did not speak. Elder Qian Mo, what is the result? Elder, what is the result? Both the Chief of the Hall of Souls and Xiao Yang below opened their mouths at the same time. The result of the fight between these 2 individuals was critical at this moment. Hun Qian Mo and the ancestor from the Pill Tower hesitated for a moment upon hearing these questions. They exchanged glances before both saying, "Consider it a draw." The strength of the 2 was quite similar. It was possible to determine a victor if they were to fight an all-out battle to the death, but it was impossible for the both of them to fight it out to such a stage. The Chief of the Hall of Souls and Xiao Yang were startled upon hearing these words. Xiao Yang's reaction was still all right, but the Chief of the Hall of Souls ended up frowning. Clearly, he was a little dissatisfied with this result. You should not be dissatisfied. With this old demon intervening, it was quite good to end up in a draw. Hun Qian Mo landed beside the Chief of the Hall of Souls and informed him in a faint voice. He was quiet for a moment while his expression became a little darker. Finally, he lifted his head to look at the youthful figure in the distance. He muttered, "It is unexpected. He has actually reached that level. Perhaps the clan head will be interested." The Chief of the Hall of Souls did not hear Hun Qian Mo's muttering voice. He bitterly laughed before raising his head to look at the fiery hot battle between Old Man Hun Mo and Xiao Chen. He softly sighed. As long as Old Man Hun Mo is victorious, the situation will more or less be decided. Hun Qian Mo lifted his head after hearing these words. He scanned the battleground and suddenly frowned. He shook his head and replied in a deep voice, "It will be a little difficult." What? The Chief of the Hall of Souls' expression underwent a change upon hearing these words. Old Man Hun Mo possesses the strength of an advanced 5-star Dosheng. On the other hand, Xiao Chen was merely an intermediate 5-star Dosheng. Given such a gap, it should not be difficult for Old Man Hun Mo to be victorious. If it was really so easy to deal with Xiao Chen, he would not have gained such a reputation back then. Hun Qian Mo replied in a faint voice. Although his reputation had been well known during that era, it was still lacking when compared to someone like Xiao Chen. If Xiao Chen had not been trapped in an illusion for so many years, it was likely that even he would be no match for Xiao Chen. The chief of the Hall of Souls frowned. He lifted his head and studied the intense battle. At this moment, Xiao Chen still seemed to be at a disadvantage. At a glance it seemed that he was in a panic while dealing with the combined attacks of Old Man Hun Mo and the Soul-Cursed Toad. Hopefully everything will be smooth. The Soul-Cursed Toad's huge body was like a cannonball as it ruthlessly struck the large axe. That frightening attack forced Xiao Chen a couple of steps back. After having stabilized his body, a dark and chilly wind rushed toward a fatal spot on his back with vicious and tricky movements. Xiao Chen twisted his body and swung the axe behind him. It sent that poisonous snake-like chain flying. Although Xiao Chen had blocked this dangerous attack, his blood axe rebounded. His entire arm felt a little numb. Xiao Chen, regardless of how experienced you are, I surpass you in terms of strength. The thought of defeating me is nothing but a fantasy of an idiot. Old Man Hun Mo's figure appeared on the head of the Soul-Cursed Toad. He looked at Xiao Chen and coldly laughed. In front of all the heroes in the world, you, a renowned powerful person from back then, has been forced into such a miserable state. It is better to simply withdraw and avoid the humiliation. Xiao Chen's figure flashed and appeared in the air. He glanced at Old Man Hun Mo. Not a single fluctuation appeared on his old face, but the vast and mighty do qi that fluctuated around his body suddenly weakened. Both of his hands gripped the axe handle tighter as he lifted it above his head. One axe strike and I'll finish you off. Chmph, arrogant. Old Man Hun Mo displayed a slightly cold face when he heard this arrogance. His heart became cautious. The mighty do qi within his body swiftly circulated like floodwater. It formed countless do qi swirls on the surface of his body. Xiao Chen lifted his blood axe high above his head. The do qi around his entire body was gradually destroyed. If it wasn't still possible to see his figure with one's naked eye, everyone would have started to think that his breath had suddenly disappeared from this world. Rumble. Layer after layer of dark clouds suddenly appeared as his aura disappeared. Lightning danced within the dark clouds like silver snakes. A loud rumbling sound reverberated through the sky. Xiao Chen's aura suddenly erupted the moment a thunderbolt surged. His aura was like an actual pillar of air as it shot toward the clouds. The most shocking aspect was that Xiao Chen had soared to the advanced level of the 5th star of the Dosheng class. How is this possible? Old Man Hun Mo's face drastically changed as he sensed Xiao Chen's aura suddenly catch up with him. He had clearly detected Xiao Chen's actual strength at the intermediate level of the 5th star of the Dosheng class. How could it? Universe cut, severing the universe. Xiao Chen did not provide Old Mo with any time to react. The moment his aura soared, the blood axe in his hand abruptly made a strange arc across the sky. Soon after, a thumbthick bloody line appeared in the sky. The air the bloody line cut seemed to have been severed into two. Lightning rumbled as a bloody aura soared into the sky while a murderous desire churned. Old Man Hun Mo felt his limbs turn cold as he faced the strange bloody line, which was rapidly magnifying in his eyes. An aura of death quietly rose from deep within his heart, but it was fortunate that he was not an ordinary person. He quickly suppressed the panic in his heart. A brutalness rose on his shriveled face at the same time. If he did not risk it all at this moment, he would definitely find it difficult to escape death. Devour curse insect. Old Man Hun Mo's hand pressed on the Soul-Cursed Toad's head in front of countless pairs of eyes. The Soul-Cursed Toad immediately emitted a sharp cry as a blood glow erupted. Everyone watched as the enormous body of the Soul-Cursed Toad melted at a rate visible to the naked eye. Finally, it turned into a pool of viscous blood that was swallowed into Old Man Hun Mo's stomach. After Old Man Hun Mo swallowed the Soul-Cursed Toad, his body began to spit out clusters of blood. At a glance, he appeared quite frightening and the mighty do qi that lingered around his body appeared quite terrifying. At this moment, his do qi had become extremely violent. An earth-shaking wail was emitted from Old Man Hun Mo's mouth. The energy of the world swiftly gathered in Old Man Hun Mo's unusually large mouth. Within a short instant, a viscous blood ball appeared. Bang! The viscous blood ball rushed out in front of many pairs of eyes the moment it appeared. Finally, it collided with the blood line that was sliding across the sky. Bang! A powerful blood light spread upon collision, enveloping the entire mountain range in a dark red color. Some violent emotions quietly appeared in the hearts of some of the weaker individuals. This caused their eyes to turn a bloody red, but it was fortunate that those who had come were individuals with some strength. Their strength protected them from handing control over to the violent emotions. The eyes of Xiao Yang's group on the fallen mountain continued to scan blood-colored ball that was thousands of feet across. Even though there was a great distance between them and the ball, they could still sense the frightening energy that was contained within the blood ball. If this energy spread, at least half of the fallen mountain would turn into flat land. Where is ancestor Xiao Chen? Xiao Yang was about to start to search because of this thought flashed through his heart when two figures suddenly flew out of the huge blood-colored light ball. These two figures heavily shot into two different mountains. A frightening force shook these two mountains until they collapsed. This scene caused everyone to feel startled. They had just let out an exclamation when two figures flew out in a swaying fashion. Their blood-covered bodies appeared somewhat miserable. Ancestor Xiao Chen, Elder Hun Mo. Both parties were startled after seeing the miserable appearances of these two individuals. Clearly, no one expected them to fight with such ruthlessness. Xiao Chen wiped the trace of blood off his face. He glared at old man Hun Mo in the distance and his eyes became somewhat grave. His strength was indeed only at the intermediate level of the 5th star of the Doshan class. He was unable to continuously unleash that attack from earlier, which could match an advanced 5-star Doshan. However, the regretful thing was that old man Hun Mo was also a ruthless individual. He actually swallowed the curse insect at the last moment and averted a disaster. Of course, swallowing the curse insect might have greatly increased his strength, but the sequela he would experience would also be quite serious. Within the next few decades, this old fellow would have difficulty increasing his strength due to his doqi being consumed by the curse insect. Xiao Chen controlled his somewhat weak body and slowly landed beside Xiao Yang. At this moment, both he and old man Hun Mo no longer possessed any strength to continue fighting. While Xiao Chen's injury was a result of exhaustion, old man Hun Mo was really a little miserable. Ancestor Xiao Chen, are you alright? Xiao Yang hurriedly asked after seeing Xiao Chen landed. At the same time, he swiftly handed Xiao Chen a medicinal pill that radiated a medicinal fragrance. I'm fine. However, I'm afraid that this match is also a draw. We'll have to rely on you for the final round. Xiao Chen received the medicinal pill and swallowed it. Finally, he lamented in a somewhat regretful voice. Another draw. Yarrow Larrow and the others by the side involuntarily and bitterly laughed. 2 of the 3 matches bad ended in a draw. This was a little comical, but this meant that the most important match fell to Xiao Yang. Leave the final match to me. Draw. Hun Clan's elder, you are really too arrogant this time around. The chief of the Hall of Souls tightly frowned. Clearly, he was a little dissatisfied by the result old man Hun Mo had obtained. Why don't you give it a try next time around? Old man Hun Mo's face became cold. His heart was filled with fury at this moment. Not only did he fail to win, he had even lost the soul curse toad. Moreover, the injuries within his body were giving him a great headache. I have already told you to engage in an all-out war with the Sky Mansion Alliance, yet all of you have insisted on this whatever upper echelon battle. Now, you have bitten off more than you can chew. If you lose the final match, there will really be a good show to see when the time comes. Old man Hun Mo furiously yelled. The existence of the Hall of Souls is extremely important to our Hun clan. Now is not the time to collide head-on with others. If you really wish for an all-out war, you will naturally be able to fight all you like after our plan has been completed in the future. The chief of the Hall of Souls replied in a faint voice. Stop uttering nonsense. Mie Sheng, prepare yourself. The final match is between you and Xiao Yang. Hun Mo Qian's eyes glanced at the distant Xiao Yang as he said, this match between the both of you will determine the victor this time around. The chief of the Hall of Souls slightly nodded. That brat is extremely cunning and is in possession of the purifying demonic lotus flame. You better not end up unexpectedly losing. Old man Hun Mo coldly spat out. The purifying demonic lotus flame, huh? The chief of the Hall of Souls involuntarily exchanged glances with Hun Qian Mo by the side. A strange smile flashed across his eyes. The chief immediately swung his sleeve and slowly stepped forward. This chief wishes to experience just how powerful the purifying demonic lotus flame is in his hands. The many pairs of eyes around the mountain range emitted a swoosh sound as they caught the chief of the Hall of Souls stepping forward. The ferocious name that the chief of the Hall of Souls once obtained within the Central Plains had reached a stage where one trembled in fear from hearing it. Although he had gradually faded from one's sight because of his prolonged retreat, his fierce reputation had not disappeared even after a long period of time. If one wished to rank the top individuals within the Central Plains, the chief of the Hall of Souls, Hun Mie Sheng, would take the top seat. 2 draws in 3 battles. This has somewhat surprised this chief, but this will not be able to change the final result. The chief of the Hall of Souls was 1,000 feet from Xiao Yang when he finally came to a slow stop. He lifted his head and looked at Xiao Yang. A faint smile appeared on his face. His aura was calm as he spoke. His expression did not change because of the current situation. Xiao Yang's exchanged a glance with the chief of the Hall of Souls. A hidden flow surged and the temperature of the air seemed to have risen at this moment. We should leave room to retreat when doing anything. At times, we should not be overconfident when speaking. Hall Chief should take care of himself. Xiao Yang softly replied. Ha, the Hall of Souls does not leave anyone alive when doing things. This way of speaking is only for mediocre individuals. If one worries about all this when trying to achieve big things, one would be a little petty. The chief of the Hall of Souls loudly laughed as he quipped. Everyone felt a little excited in their hearts after hearing this verbal sparring. This fight was the most important one today. One party was the chief of the Hall of Souls, and from a certain point of view, Xiao Yang could be considered the leader of the Sky Mansion Alliance. The battle between the two of them determined the victor and the loser of this battle. The clan has criticized me because of you. Back then, I gave the order to dispatch people to the Jomar Empire to capture Xiaozhon. My thought was that we should eliminate everyone when making an attack, but this chief had undertaken a retreat to train when the order was issued. Some of my subordinates were a little lazy and only captured Xiaozhon since I wasn't around. You managed to escape the many attempts to kill you after that first incident because they all underestimated you. Within a short decade or so, you have reached this level a step at a time. The eyes of the chief of the Hall of Souls were somewhat complicated as he stared at Xiao Yang. This threat to the Han clan was someone that they could have eliminated long ago, but due to many unforeseen reasons, they had ended up allowing this threat to grow at a terrifying speed. Now, this threat had reached a level where he could fight on even ground with the Hall of Souls. If one were to toss aside this person's status as an enemy, the chief of the Hall of Souls felt an admiration for this person in his heart. He had to admit that if it had been him, he would have found it difficult to overcome this strenuous journey and reach the peak of this continent. This chief has an undeniable responsibility in allowing you to grow to this extent. Hence, this time around, I hope to remove that responsibility. The chief of the Hall of Souls smiled. His eyes roamed Xiao Yang, who had an impassive expression, as he slowly stated. I also hope to help end the blood feud of the members of the Xiao clan today. Xiao Yang's voice was soft, but everyone could hear the dense murderous intent contained within his words. He could not forget those many scattered incidents from back then even now. The Xiao clan had ended up breaking apart because of the Han clan. His father had been captured and members of the clan had been killed. In the end, they were forced to leave their home and flee to spots around the Jomar Empire. At that time, he did not possess the strength to protect his clan. All he could do was set off with the burden of the blood feud. That journey had undertaken had honed his will. At the same time, his hatred for the Hall of Souls had grown. The chief of the Hall of Souls faintly smiled upon hearing this reply. A dark black dough chi slowly surged from his body. He said, "Just attack." This chief also wishes to see just how strong you, who has experienced a lucky encounter within the demonic flame realm, has become. Bang! Before the chief of the Hall of Souls could utter all that he wanted to say, a low sonic boom was swiftly picked up by his ear. Moreover, the space in front of him shook the moment the sonic boom sounded. A figure appeared in front of him in a ghost-like fashion. Both of his fingers were curled, and a pink fire seedling happily danced in an arc. The temperature of the world rose the moment the pink fire appeared. The attack had arrived extremely quick. Even the calm chief of the Hall of Souls had a stunned expression flash across his eyes. In the next instant, the dark black dough chi on the surface of his body had agglomerated like a conditional reflex. It swiftly turned into a black shield. Both of Xiao Yang's fingers did not pause. They pressed against the shield, melting it with the dancing pink flame in an instant. After which, his fingers were like lightning as they headed toward the Hall chief's eyes. The chief of the Hall of Souls let out a cold snort when faced with Xiao Yang's vicious strike. His body did not move. He did not act to defend against Xiao Yang's finger. Instead, he slammed his palm toward Xiao Yang's chest. He was clearly intent on exchanging his eyes for the other party's eyes. The chief of the Hall of Souls has really schemed well. Xiao Yang laughed upon noticing the strike, but his hand did not halt. Instead, he lowered it and accurately pressed his fingers against the palm of the chief of the Hall of Souls. A pink flame flashed and the dense black dough chi on the chief's palm quickly melted away. The chief of the Hall of Souls frowned when he felt how overbearing the purifying demonic lotus flame was. His body trembled slightly and many after-images appeared. His body reappeared in the air above. His expression was a little dark and solemn as he glanced at his palm. There was a half-an-inch-long mark there. No blood seeped out of the wound because the surrounding blood vessels had been incinerated by the heat radiating from the purifying demonic lotus flame. It is indeed worthy of being the purifying demonic lotus flame. The chief of the Hall of Souls had been injured the moment the fight began. Although it was not serious, it still appeared quite ugly. The fight between the two seemed to be a close-quarters fight. Moreover, both parties were as fast as ghosts. Within a split second, they had clashed and separated. Other than a few sharp-eyed individuals, most people were a little dazzled by the clash. Their hearts involuntarily felt some yearning while feeling shocked. Xiao Yang lifted his head. He glanced at the chief of the Hall of Souls, but he did not say anything. His hand seals began to change with lightning-like speed. After the hand seals had changed, a 10,000-foot large spiritual illusory figure wrapped around the surface of his body. Yellow Spring Divine Anger. Xiao Yang did not dare to underestimate such an opponent. He immediately unleashed his extremely powerful Soul Sonic Wave attack the moment after his first strike. The enormous illusory figure widened its mouth, and a terrifying spiritual wave smashed toward the chief of the Hall of Souls at a speed that exceeded the speed of light. Xiao Yang, other people might be afraid of your yellow spring divine anger, but this chief isn't afraid of it. The chief of the Hall of Souls pulled back as black Do Chi erupted from his body. The Do Chi turned into an uncountable number of spiritual illusory figures in front of many stunned pairs of eyes. These illusory figures created a strange formation as they wrapped around him. Their faces were filled with devoted expressions as they knelt down. At the same time, their mouths emitted many spiritual sonic waves. 10,000 worshipping souls. Countless of spiritual sonic waves gathered in front of the chief of the Hall of Souls before they transformed into a sharp arrow that shot out and violently collided with the yellow spiring divine anger's spiritual assault. The two spiritual sonic waves collided, and in an instant, the mountain range hummed. Many experts paled because of this spiritual fluctuation. A mouthful of fresh blood was spat out, and they pulled back with shocked faces. Just the strength of the sonic wave made them completely vulnerable. The sonic waves clashed and spread through the sky. The illusory spirits surrounding the chief of the Hall of Souls exploded one after another. Finally, all of them exploded until nothing remained. His body did not appear to suffer much damage since it had been protected. Xiao Yang ended up frowning upon seeing his attack not do much. It was the first time he had witnessed a spiritual wave attack that could match the yellow spring divine anger. This chief of the Hall of Souls was indeed knowledgeable. Moreover, the whole chief soul was also at the perfect heavenly state, equal to Xiao Yang's soul state. After this exchange, Xiao Yang had discovered that the strength of the chief of the Hall of Souls had actually reached the intermediate level of the 5 of the Star Doshun class. In other words, his strength had improved during these 2 years. Although your spiritual strength is powerful, I'm afraid that it is nothing but whimsical thinking of you wish to use it to defeat this chief. The chief of the Hall of Souls randomly broke the final sonic wave attack before he spoke. Xiao Yang glanced at the Hall of Souls chief but did not reply. He opened his mouth and a pink flame was spat out. Following the appearance of this pink flame, the trees around the mountain emitted puffs and self-ignited in front of many startled eyes. After which, they turned into ashes as fierce flames raged. The chief of the Hall of Souls' eyes narrowed when he saw the pink flame float above Xiao Yang's head. His face finally revealed an extremely grave expression. If a frightening heavenly flame like this purifying demonic lotus flame were to invade his body, even he would immediately receive a serious injury. The heavenly flame ranked 3rd on the heavenly flame ranking was not just a flame others could just talk about. This is my first time using the purifying demonic lotus flame to fight an opponent. Hopefully, you will not disappoint me. Xiao Yang lifted his head, looked at the grave-looking chief of the Hall of Souls, and spoke with a smile. Although the demonic flame is powerful, one only needs to look at who is controlling it. The chief of the Hall of Souls spoke in a faint voice. He observed Xiao Yang and the cluster of pink flames. The wisp of an extremely faint black flame suddenly flashed deep within his eyes. It clearly appeared extremely unusual. Moreover, the purifying demonic lotus flame might be powerful, but, Xiao Yang narrowed his eyes. He was vaguely able to detect a strange fluctuation being emitted from within Little Yi's body. Inside this chief's body, there seems to be something present. Xiao Yang gave the chief of the Hall of Souls, who was floating in the sky above, a deep look. Both of his hands appeared like blooming lotuses as they danced and formed many after-images. Following these hand seals, the cluster of pink flames above his head emitted a swoosh sound as it shot into the sky. Finally, it rapidly wiggled in front of countless pairs of eyes. A frightening temperature was gradually emitted while the pink flame wiggled. This caused the entire world to feel like a steamer. The mountains of the fallen mountain range would occasionally combust, causing a dense smoke to rise into the sky. The Do Chi of some weaker individuals showed signs of boiling. Moreover, some of those experiencing intense emotional fluctuations were startled to discover that their bodies were gradually becoming warmer. The purifying demonic lotus flame possessed the unusual ability to use one's emotions as a source to burn one's body. This discovery frightened many people into withdrawing. Only after they had exited the bounds of the mountain range did they feel the searing pain in their hearts weaken. All of their faces were filled with horror. It is indeed worthy of being the purifying demonic lotus flame by being this terrifying. The grand elders of some sects around the mountain revealed solemn and envious faces. If one were to fight someone who possessed this kind of heavenly flame, one would have to split one's attention on resisting the high temperature of the flame before the fight even started. This terrifying temperature could even easily incinerate Do Chi. Xiao Yang is finally planning on using the purifying demonic lotus flame. Old man Hun Mo watched this scene and frowned. Even he would find it a little troublesome to deal with the purifying demonic lotus flame. Although the chief of the Hall of Souls was a level higher than Xiao Yang, it was not impossible for him to lose if he was careless. This little fellow is really a person blessed with great luck. I once made an attempt to get this purifying demonic lotus flame back then, but I ended up returning in failure. Unexpectedly, he was able to subdue the flame with his strength. Hun Qianmo sighed before he immediately laughed. However, Even if this brat really uses the purifying demonic lotus flame, he will still not find it easy to defeat Han Miesheng. The chief of the Hall of Souls focused his eyes on the cluster of churning pink flames as he stood in the sky. His eyes filled with a grave expression. On top of this solemnness, there was also an unusual heat surging within them. The pink flame gradually formed a pink fire plate in front of countless pairs of eyes. The edges of the fire plate consisted of strange flame symbols. If one were to examine these symbols, one would be able to tell that these symbols were the 6 types of heavenly flames Xiao Yang had refined. In the middle of these 6 types of heavenly flame, which was the middle of the fire plate, a crystal-like pink flame was swaying with the wind. Angry Buddha reincarnation. Xiao Yang's eyes hardened after the fire plate formed. A low cry was suddenly emitted. The pink fire plate in the sky emitted waves of buzzing sounds after Xiao Yang's cry sounded. The fire plate then emitted a cracking sound as it slowly rotated. While it was rotating, the pink fire crystal positioned at the center of the fire plate emitted a puff sound as it suddenly shot out an arm-thick fire pillar. The pink flame was merely as thick as an arm, but it swelled with the wind the moment it rushed forward before growing hundreds of feet in size within the wind. The pink flame had just been formed when it shot toward a mountain below with terrifying speed. Upon contact, the mountain strangely vanished in front of countless pairs of eyes as though it had been made of ice. Only a 1,000-foot large pit was left behind. The large pit appeared bottomless. At a glance, one was unable to see an end to it. Go. Xiao Yang's hand seal changed. A finger suddenly pointed towards the chief of the Hall of Souls in the sky, and the fire plate swiftly rose. That pink fire pillar cut through the ground, forming a 10,000-foot wide deep gully in front of many stunned eyes. It appeared as though all the objects the fire beam touched seemed to have been turned into nothing. The fire beam moved at a speed that could only be described as lightning quick. An ordinary person was only able to detect a bright flashing light before that strange pink fire beam locked onto the chief of the Hall of Souls, who was just about to pull back. After being surrounded by the pink fire beam, the majestic Do Qi around the chief of the Hall of Souls began to swiftly melt at a speed visible to the naked eye. Although Do Qi continued to surge out of the chief of the Hall of Souls' body, it was not able to catch up to the speed at which Do Qi was melting. The strength of the current angry Buddha reincarnation had become overwhelming with the strengthening of the newly formed flame. If an ordinary elite Do Sheng was surrounded by this light ray, that ordinary expert would likely be able to endure for half a minute or so before their Do Qi would completely melt. At that time, even one's soul would be annihilated by the fire beam. The expressions of those experts in the sky changed when they saw the chief of the Hall of Souls' Do Qi rapidly disappear. Their eyes were a little horrified when they glanced back at the rotating fire plate in the sky. They could detect an extremely dense and dangerous aura emanating from the fire beam. The chief of the Hall of Souls will not be able to endure for long if this continues. Everyone looked at each other as this thought flashed across their hearts. Once the Do Qi within the chief of the Hall of Souls was completely exhausted, he would be defeated. Reincarnation restrain. Xiao Yang looked at the chief of the Hall of Souls in the sky, who was forcefully enduring the fire beam. His eyes turned slightly cold as his hands once again formed different seals. Following the change of these seals, the reincarnation fire flame suddenly began to rotate in the reverse direction at a rapid speed. The 100-foot large fire beam suddenly began to rapidly shrink after the reincarnation fire plate began to rotate in the reverse direction. Within the blink of an eye, it had shrunk to dozens of feet in size, but it did not stop there. It continued to wildly shrink. Following this rapid shrinking of the fire beam, everyone could sense an extermination energy being gathered. This is bad. Old man Hun Mo's expression immediately changed after sensing this energy. Even his heart had begun to palpitate as the fire beam shrank to the size of a thumb. Reincarnation restrain, falling reincarnation. A cold glint suddenly surged within Xiao Yang's eyes after the fire beam became the size of a thumb. The beam locked onto the chief of the Hall of Souls' forehead as Xiao Yang suddenly cried out. The reincarnation fire plate in the sky trembled after this cry was made. It gradually collapsed as a red light flashed over the sky. That thumb-sized fire beam ruthlessly struck the chief of the Hall of Souls with a destructive force. Bang! A loud explosion reverberated across the sky. The frightening fire waves that were created by the beam caused some elite Do Shengs to hurriedly pull back with different expressions. They were afraid to even risk the chance of coming into contact with it. It has struck. Yarrow Larrow and the others revealed a slight joy upon seeing the beam land. Even the chief of the Hall of Souls would likely suffer after being struck by such a powerful attack. The ancestor of the Pill Tower also locked his eyes on the spot where the pink flame had exploded, but his brows were slightly knit. Has the victor been determined? Those eyes from all over the mountain looked to the sky. Some conversations appeared in waves. Xiao Yang's attack earlier was far too powerful. If nothing unexpected happened, it was not impossible for it to determine the victor. The Hall of Souls was completely silent. They had not expected the chief of the Hall of Souls to not possess the ability to even retaliate in this fight. Hun Qian Mo inserted his hands into his sleeves. He merely laughed after hearing the conversations from others. Xiao Yang floated in the sky. A mouthful of extremely hot air was spat out of his mouth. His eyes had focused on the spot where the pink flame was scattering. Although he was quite confident in his attack, he sensed that the chief of the Hall of Souls would not be so easily defeated for some unknown reason. A slight sound was suddenly emitted from the area where the pink flame was spreading. He is indeed not dead. Xiao Yang's expression was displeased upon hearing this slight sound. The caution in his heart rose. Soon after Xiao Yang's voiced his thoughts, a black figure vaguely took shape in the middle of the spreading pink flame. An extremely strange suction force suddenly swept out in all directions when it appeared. The pink flame, which had been spreading out, had been sucked back in. Finally, the pink flame charged into the body of the person slowly walking out of the flame in front of many eyes. These eyes were all filled with disbelief. He has actually absorbed the purifying demonic lotus flame into his body. Is he trying to commit suicide? The actions of the black figure immediately stirred an uproar. Clearly, everyone felt disbelief because of what he was doing. He is actually unhurt. Xiao Yang's eyes were a little stunned as they scanned the chief of the Hall of Souls as he slowly walked out of the flame. Xiao Yang felt some disbelief. The taste of the purifying demonic lotus flame is indeed delicious. However, it is unfortunately not the essence flame. I really wish to taste the essence of the purifying demonic flame. The chief of the Hall of Souls stood in the sky. He smacked his mouth and an unusual smile hung on his face. He looked at the frowning Xiao Yang. A strange black flame with an unusual devouring power was present within his eyes. Traces of it seeped out and the energy that surrounded him was continuously sucked into his body. After which, it was completely devoured by an unusual strength. Are you feeling confused? The chief of the Hall of Souls softly laughed. His face was overflowing with a strange expression. You possess the purifying demonic lotus flame while this chief has a heavenly flame that is even stronger than it. The chief of the Hall of Souls slowly extended his hand. A cluster of unusual black flames suddenly appeared. The black flames churned and vaguely formed a human face. Waves of a devouring power erupted from the mouth of that human face. Xiao Yang's eyes suddenly narrowed to the size of a pinhole when the black flame with a human face appeared. The second on the heavenly flame ranking. Nihility devouring flame. This video will end here.